Then in case of macroeconomic factors, ये अभी बाकी है, ये सब हुआ नहीं है, ये अभी हम next chapter में करेंगे economics में. All these, like something really interesting. If you guys are really interested in economics, how many of you guys are interested in economics?
So me.
That's really me, because if you want to ace finance, right, and like a coupling of finance as well as economics, trust me, it's a very very good what you could say, very good two things to have in your portfolio, and you will be able to use your understanding of economics in understanding various financial concepts and ace them, and vice versa also. So you will be able to apply all the financial concepts that you learn over here into what's happening with your country, into what's happening with your economy, and take tidbits from there and put it in the financial system also. So you'll be able to correlate. So that would be really important for you to work as whenever you work, say, in any of the capital markets, or say get into consultancy, iBanking and all. A lot of macro and microeconomic factors will affect your decision making as a finance professional, and that will be countered only if you have a proper understanding of both of them. If you have finance to आप वैसे भी कर ही रहे हो, economical understanding of each of these concepts is very important. So that's the reason why, if you are not, I would ask you to take some interest in economics. अभी आपने माइक्रो और मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स बचपन में बहुत किया है, आई नो फॉर अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट, राइट? 11th 12th में all thanks to your law of demand, law of supply, marginal what do you say, marginal utility, diminishing marginal utility, बहुत कुछ किया है, right? So I'm directly going to come up with a question now. What do you think? What is the difference between macro and microeconomics?
So microeconomics deals with an individual unit like a consumer, and macroeconomics deals with countries as a whole. So deals with economic systems.
Perfect. So you're going to talk about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, and all in macroeconomics. Yeah. So my next question would be, like, you guys have heard of fiscal policy, monetary policy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What are they? Are they one and the same? What is the difference between the two? मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता, आप बताओ.
So fiscal policy is regarding taxation and all.
Okay.
And financial is with spending, how much you earn, how much you spend.
Okay. And monetary policy?
Sorry?
And monetary policy?
Monetary is with the flow of credit, the money, like interest rate and all.
Or thoda, if you could dwell deeper into both of them. You're on the right track. Just thoda or deep.
Okay, so monetary policy is usually determined by the central bank.
Not usually. All the time determined.
Always. Okay. And I guess fiscal policy and financial policy, government has a quite important role in it.
They only have the role, not acquiring the central government only has the role. Yeah. So yeah, as rightly mentioned, fiscal policy is decided by the Ministry of Finance. And two major components for fiscal policies. See, fiscal policy is nothing less than a budget. It's a budget. So it's like इतना पैसा आने वाला है, इतना पैसा जाने वाला है. So पैसा जो आने वाला है उसको हम revenue बोलते हैं. Government revenue बोलेगा. So tax revenue, non-tax revenue, there are a lot of things which get in money for the government. And fiscal policy also talk about where are you going to spend that money. And based upon that, you have something called as fiscal deficit. Like if your money that is coming in is less than the money that you're spending in, it's called as fiscal deficit. And there are a lot of economists who have mentioned things like, say, if you might have heard of Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, Ricardo and all, who have had multiple kinds of theories. Like someone like John Maynard Keynes has usually proposed a fiscal deficit, has usually said that if it's as good as, like, say, a particular country who's doing well, who's having a very good growth rate, developing country, it is good if you take some money if you are working in fiscal deficit. Why? Because uska aapka wo jo additional expenditure hai na, is going to give you greater returns for the economy as a whole. Like, say, it's the same philosophy which most of the growing businesses do. What they do is they take a loan, right? Loan is beyond their means, beyond their liquidity, but they'll still bring in, push in some liquidity in the business, as against a 7, 8, 10, 12% rate of interest pay karenge. But using that money, they'll generate returns of, say, 50, 60%. Which will suffice the EMIs that have to be paid, and over and above, they'll earn some more money. So that's what happens with developing countries in regards to fiscal policy also. So fiscal deficit also. So that's what it is usually suggested. So we are going to dwell in deep with regards to these. Just a brief introduction. Monetary policy, as rightly mentioned by Nahush, is the sole prerogative of the central bank. So central bank is going to decide, like aap kafi baar sunte ho, interest rates, रेपो, रिवर्स रेपो वगैरह सुना आपने ये टर्म्स?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Reverse repo rate.
Repo and reverse repo.
The amount which is kept from by the central bank after it is supplied to the commercial banks.
वो तो CRR SLR हो गया. Repo, reverse repo क्या होता है? See, CRR, SLR are also two ways through which monetary policy is formulated and people and the RBI controls the supply of money. Your repo and reverse repo, as the name suggests, its full form is repurchase agreements and reverse repurchase agreements. So क्या होता है कि when government feels कि boss बाहर market में ना there is good supply of money. So what they say, मतलब बहुत ज्यादा money supply है, तो government feels कि यार अभी क्या करना चाहिए मालूम है, ये बहुत ज्यादा supply of money है, there is a risk कि inflation हो सकता है. Inflation क्यों होगा? Because a whole lot of money is chasing limited amount of goods. So लोग ज्यादा पैसा देने को रेडी रहेंगे for the same amount of goods, which may lead to inflation. So इसके लिए क्या करना चाहिए? हमें पैसा का सप्लाई कम कर देना चाहिए. अब ये कैसे है सप्लाई? ऐसा तो नहीं कर सकता ना कि आरबीआई कल जाके सबके घर में रेड मार के पैसा ले ले, ऐसा तो पॉसिबल नहीं है.
By selling government securities.
गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज को बेचकर हम ये कर सकते हैं. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज आप बेचोगे एंड गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज के अगेंस्ट आपको थोड़ा सा पैसा मिलेगा, थोड़ा सा रिटर्न्स मिलेगा, लाइक एनी डिबेंचर और बॉन्ड ऑफ योर्स. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट रेपो एंड रिवर्स रेपो रेट, अगर ये रेट्स बढ़ा दिए, रिवर्स रेपो रेट अभी करेंटली इट्स एट एन ऑल टाइम लो, अराउंड 4% को चल रहा है. सो ये रेट्स जब भी कम रहता है ना, सो क्या होता है कि जो मनी सप्लाई, सो गवर्नमेंट इज एक्चुअली एनकरेजिंग कि तुम ज्यादा पैसा अपने पास रखो, मतलब दे आर बाइंग बैक द बॉन्ड्स at a cheaper rate. So what happens is in such a scenario, government is actually pushing money into the system. On the flip side, when the money supply is higher, अभी कोविड का सिचुएशन इसलिए मनी सप्लाई लिक्विडिटी कम है मार्केट में, so government wants people to take loans, spend more, so that the economy is pushed. So in such a scenario, your rates will be lower because government would want people to not deposit money with the RBI. So RBI would want people that banks do not deposit money with RBI. Because if they deposit, they are going to get lower rate of interest in the case of say current COVID, because the rate of repo is very low. At the same point of time, they are not willing to, what you could say, they will be more willing to lend, purchase money from RBI because saste rate mein mil raha hai, right? Like we just took a loan. My company just took a major loan for construction of a new factory, and we got that loan at what 7.5% rate of interest. We were negotiating. The company was negotiating the same 3 years back also. At that point of time, the rate that was negotiated was around 9.5. So 2%, 200 basis points ka difference. It's like a huge saving, right? That was possible. Why? Because of overall rates falling down. So there are a lot of ways and means through which RBI controls the money supply in the economy. And that's something that we are going to deal with when you're going to understand monetary supply. Because when you're talking about interest rate, currency rates, inflation, all these are RBI's prerogatives. So RBI has a lot of tools to control each of these. Clear? Hello. Open market operations.
Yes, sir.
As
Yes,
mentioned, open market operations. Clear? So what are the objectives of
Sir.
Bolo na.
Sir, so in the repo rate, the government securities are sold at a low rate, right?
Repo rate, reverse repo rate is just rate. It's not कि आप low rate में बेच रहे हो, ज़्यादा rate में बेच रहे हो. That is depending upon the market scenario. You increase or decrease. आपने काफी बार सुना होगा. रेपो रेट गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड्स कि 25 बेसिस पॉइंट लाइक क्वार्टर परसेंटेज रिड्यूस करना है और सीधा सेंसेक्स बढ़ने चालू हो जाएगा. व्हाई? बिकॉज अगर रेपो रेट कम कर दिया, ऑल योर लोन्स आर बेस्ड एट रेपो प्लस 2%, रेपो प्लस 3%, ऐसा सब लोगों का लोन्स का इंटरेस्ट रेट्स होता है. तो रेपो रेट ऑटोमेटिकली गिर गया तो सब लोगों का इंटरेस्ट सेविंग हो जाएगा. सो रेपो रेट इज अ रेट. रेपो रेट इज नॉट द रेट एट विच यू बाय बैक. रेपो रेट क्या होता है? रेपो रेट रीपर्चेज रेट है, but it does not mean कि रेपो में आप कम में परचेज करोगे या रेपो में ज्यादा में, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द सिचुएशन. लाइक कोविड का सिचुएशन है, सो ऑटोमेटिकली द रेट्स हैव फॉलन. सो अभी रेपो रेट एंड रिवर्स रेपो रेट है ना, दोनों में ना हमेशा 1% का डिफरेंस रहने वाला है. सो रेपो रेट इज द रेट एट विच द गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग टू रीपर्चेज द अग्रीमेंट्स, द bonds that they have sold, and reverse repo rate is the rate at which the government is going to sell those bonds, right?
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.